13. Dear Kiddo, take my hand into darkness. The Taos birthday chapter. Dear Kiddo, take my hand into darkness. The Taos birthday chapter. Dear Kiddo, let me take you to Taos, New Mexico, a picturesque town nestled in the mountains, a place where the skiing is great, the food is fancy, and the red flags are waving like they're in a parade just for me. It was my birthday, and your mom and I decided to celebrate with a weekend getaway. Skiing, fine dining, and a conversation so bizarre it might as well have come with its own laugh track. Buckle up, kiddo, because this chapter involves slopes, scandal, and the strange ideological hills your mom was always ready to die on. The skiing, a brief moment of bliss. We started the trip on the slopes. Skiing was your mom's idea, which threw me for a loop, because your mom, bless her heart, doesn't exactly exude athleticism. Sure, she dabbles in yoga and goes on the occasional hike, but nothing that involves sweating or sustained effort. So imagine my surprise when she turned out to be a halfway decent skier. Now, don't get me wrong. She wasn't exactly Bode Miller out there, while I zipped down the mountain on my snowboard like a caffeinated hawk. She took her sweet time. For every 2 runs I did, she managed 1, pausing occasionally to channel her inner ski instructor who just read a spiritual quote. Still, she held her own. And for a brief moment, I thought, maybe she's more active than I realized. Spoiler alert, she isn't. But the skiing was great while it lasted. The Love Apple, where dinner gets weird. That night, we went to the Love Apple, a cozy restaurant known for its locally sourced food and rustic chic vibes. The meal was wonderful, but the conversation, well, let's just say it veered off-piste faster than your mom on the bunny slope. At some point, your mom brought up a family controversy involving her father. Apparently, her mom had caught him looking at internet pornography. I know what you're thinking, Dad. Why was this coming up over dinner on your birthday? Great question. I still don't know. The details were vague, something about Asian stuff, whatever that means, and your mom was clearly scandalized. I, on the other hand, didn't think it was such a big deal. He shouldn't have been doing it, sure, I said, but cut the guy some slack. He's been married since he was practically a teenager. If that's the worst thing he's done, maybe it's not worth a meltdown. Your mom didn't agree. She launched into her personal philosophy on pornography, which I quickly realized was less philosophy and more puritanical sermon dressed up in progressive clothing. Then she dropped the kicker. Well, my third husband never needed to look at pornography. The third husband argument. A red flag in disguise. Now, kiddo, this was the moment when I started to question not just the conversation, but everything about the trip. Your mom's third husband, 10 years older than her, and, according to her, some kind of saint, had supposedly never felt the need to look at pornography. To which I thought, yeah, right. Listen, I didn't want to be rude, especially not over a plate of organic quinoa and heirloom carrots, but come on. Either he was lying or he was a unicorn. Regardless, why was this even relevant? Her insistence on this point felt less like a casual anecdote and more like a courtroom deposition. It was in that moment I realized something crucial about your mom. For someone who thought of herself as progressive and forward-thinking, she had some surprisingly rigid, almost moralistic views. It's like she'd left the megachurch years ago, but the megachurch hadn't quite left her. Wow, I teased, trying to lighten the mood. You're still carrying around a little Sunday school baggage, huh? She didn't laugh. Another red flag. The denial that came later. Now here's the kicker, weeks later when I brought up this conversation, because how could I not? Your mom flat out denied it ever happened. I never said that, she insisted. Yeah, you did. At the Love Apple. We were talking about your dad. I would never have said that. Cue the gaslighting, kiddo. By this point, I'd already started noticing a pattern. Your mom had a knack for rewriting history whenever it suited her. Whether it was a conversation, an event, or a promise, she could reshape it in her mind until it fit whatever narrative she preferred. It was both maddening and impressive, like watching someone pull off an elaborate magic trick using only selective memory. Lessons learned in Taos. Looking back, the Taos trip was one of those moments where the red flags were impossible to ignore, even if I didn't quite know what to do with them. Between the strange skiing detour, the awkward dinner conversation, and the post-trip denial, it was clear that your mom wasn't just quirky. She was a walking contradiction. On the one hand, she prided herself on being open-minded and enlightened. On the other, she clung to ideological positions so rigid they could have snapped like a dry ski pole. And yet I stuck around, convinced that these quirks were just that. Quirks, not warning signs. Spoiler alert, they were warning signs. Take my hand, kiddo. So, kiddo, if there's one thing I want you to take away from this story, it's this. Pay attention to the red flags. Whether they're waving in the mountains of Taos or popping up over dinner at a fancy restaurant, don't ignore them. Trust your gut, and don't let anyone gaslight you into doubting what you know happened. And if someone tries to convince you their third husband was a porn-free unicorn, feel free to laugh. I sure did. Love, Dad.